Da, 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 da. Okay, I'm just gonna dive right in. This is as much. Okay, well, first let me let out the parakeets. They're yelling to death. So I'll be right back. Okay, parakeets have been released and already going on to the curtains. Cool. Okay. So the context here is I was just chatting on the competitive Overwatch subreddit earlier, and we were talking about Rain versus the Dragons a little bit, and they said that it was pretty close. Hey Tricio, what's going on? Uh, nice of you to stop by for a bit. I'm gonna be looking at basically what level was this map specifically within the control of the Dragons? Because they were saying that it was a close map. I disagreed from what I remembered seeing, but because I felt that it was actually within the Shanghai Dragons pacing the entire time. These were no hero bans. Ooh, I like that color better. I think that's an improvement. This was, yeah, this was no hero bans. I don't think that this is the one they pick. No, this is just the in-spawn one. Also, because all the replay codes got erased. Obviously there's nothing on main server, so that's why it's perfect time to go look at Owl. Woo! One last hooray too before uh, a month of waiting. So right off the bat, you see these two comps. The Rain went for their kind of standard bread and butter brawl pick. They went for the reason that you would go for the Tracer here is because generally the Mei is like the more common pick, but that's specifically for the mirror. A Mei isn't that useful against like the dive comps that you would expect the Shanghai Dragons to be running because Blizzard they can just avoid, walls aren't going to have that much impact, etc., etc. So Tracer instead gives them a little more of the flank control and lets them hold a lot more of the map. Specifically, you'll probably see Pelican fighting to try and slow down Shanghai Dragons grabbing this side rotation. Meanwhile, the rest of the Atlanta will be anchoring here because then they can actually flip the map if needed to kind of counteract a rotation from Shanghai Dragons around this way. However, I if I remember right, we see some good action from Lip here. Shanghai Dragons, of course, are running. I believe they go. Yeah, they're on the Sig Ball. And it's basically because they don't actually expect Rain to chase down their Sigma at all. So they can be really, really greedy with the spam from the Zen, the BAP, and the Sig. And they don't even need the Brig, of course, because I don't actually think they expected Pelican to be on Tracer. So they thought that they wouldn't need a Brig. And if you don't have dive opponents, Brig is basically useless. So that's why they're going for the really greedy backline. Lip, of course, provides immense pressure down main, while the rest of the team will look to rotate around to provide the backboard. So it should be pretty clean. Of course, if there's any questions, feel free to drop them in. So yeah, Pelican's looking to kind of just poke out Fleta a little bit. But Pelican's going to be forced out pretty fast, I assume, because Fleta should have a lot more support because he can have the Zen Orb. So right, as you can see, this is already getting really difficult for Rain to handle because, well, Pelican has been able to hold down Fleta a bit. Lip's angle here is basically going to be entirely unaddressed unless they actually just all rush him, which in that case, that opens up Void and I believe, honestly, probably Fleta to go in and play more aggressively. The problem is that Rain can't actually, they're not going to get much poke here because Cass and BAP just don't have that like burst level needed to really have like to really break down any components of the Shanghai Dragon. So as long as like Fleta doesn't really make an error, you're probably not going to see any poke coming out from the Rain that's really going to make a difference. So instead, we will see them probably waiting around and hoping that the dragons are going to touch point and basically just playing the stall game. Because if they can just stall out dragons for an insane amount of time, then they can probably hold in the streets phase where they have some tighter corridors. I don't love the matchup that they're forced into because I don't even think in the in once ults come into play, I still don't think Rain is going to have enough advantage to really like make any plays though. And if they come out into space, they're basically done for. So yeah, Pelican's doing a good job holding his own. So this is kind of let me turn off those obnoxious objective noises. These should just be off from default. So this is what I was telling you about. They're gonna rotate in this way as a reaction to Shanghai Dragons taking more space here, because now this space is a little more free. Because obviously space is just something that you move through and can occupy temporarily, like it just useful areas of the map. So as soon as the Shanghai Dragons move out of this space into this space is now open again, so they can flip the map. But the thing that I don't really love is that now this does allow dragons to force point, which is probably what they expected, like what the dragons expected to an extent. Because if they try and keep toes on point, so to speak, then Lip is free. Because otherwise, Hawk and if you sent like only Hawk and Masa after Lip, I'm pretty sure they still die because Fate can close the distance fast enough, and with the Discord Orb, that I'm pretty sure they still die. Okay, so Kai lands a better shot on there than I expected. So now this is a little bit interesting. I'm still pretty sure that Dragons has control over this because they have the map, but they're definitely put in an awkward situation because I mean the biggest issue for Rain though is that they have no plan for dealing with uh Izayaki and Lee Jae-gon. Like they legitimately have nothing. Yeah, so true. Like this is one of my favorite matches that I've seen, period, because like Shanghai just honestly showed like some transcendental play here. Like it doesn't they've showed us the pinnacle of Overwatch so far. I'm hoping that we can see some even cooler stuff next season as long as teams don't lose their heads with Overwatch 2, because in theory the fundamentals should stay very much the same. But yeah, this has been like I've loved watching this match multiple times. Yeah, the Zen up there is insanely strong if you're expecting your opponents to be on Brawl and like shorter range heroes. Because like obviously if you had like a Widow or a Hanzo or something on Rain, that would be a lot more dangerous to be parked up here. And I expect we would have actually seen Izayaki rotate to here to just close that sight line a little bit. And you'd probably have Void parked up here too. But as it is, this long sightline is oppressive because they just have nothing. I believe Kai is on Hanzo for offense, maybe. I don't remember for defense or not if he plays the Hanzo. It's been like a month since I've watched this, so Fate's going in a little more aggro than I would like. But honestly, like Shanghai Dragons can literally just keep the slow burn on this until they build up window and slash or pulse bomb and like a little bit harder hitting ults to make things really work. Did they did they did they watch it yet? I'm curious because like if how much like because like obviously there's different like levels of what you see in a game like this. So yeah, Pelican like tried to just force this, but because these two are just stacking, there's basically nothing that Pelican can do. There's too long of sight lines. What Pelican would have to do is wrap around entirely to here, but even this is a pretty long sight line that's really scary. And the other problem is that Lip is actually covering them. So these two, if you play chess, it's like when you have a piece basically like covering your other piece so that they can't take it. So if Pelican goes after Lip, well, he's going to get discorded and shot by Lee Jae-gon, etc. And if they go after these two, then Lip is going to be all over them. So they're kind of in a pin down here. I don't think they have. I mean, their best option really would have been to try and outlast as much as possible and then spring out to rush down Void. But yeah, they're basically pushed into the corner and just rolled because they can't deal with this gradual pressure. And like Gator's the first to crumble because so much of that is going to be directed at the main tank. Yeah, and then once the window comes down, this collapses. See, okay, so this is something that I was telling people about, is I don't think people realize just how good Pelican is. Like so obviously this sounds stupid saying it when he was Rookie of the Year and people are like always praising him, but like he is really, really, really good. Like way better, I think, than people give him credit for. And he single-handedly is like he's one of the key reasons they won against the Glads, like with just some of his own like clutch plays that he saw opportunities for. And like even here, he put the pressure on Lip, almost checked that angle, manages to get the pulse bomb that almost like that actually manages to crack that even just a little. Unfortunately, he couldn't really like quite pull it off because his recall was forced by that dynamite. But like he's a threat, and he's not someone that Shanghai take lightly. Fortunately, like Fleta probably isn't as mechanically talented as someone like Pelican, but Fleta is phenomenal just like in terms of discipline and positioning overall. Well, very good at the very least. So they're a-okay at taking keeping Pelican in check on the Tracer. Because it's important to remember that on the Tracer duels, it's actually very rarely breaking out into like actual fragging out, blasting each other duels. It's actually more of just like poking at each other from a distance. Glads versus Shanghai was really, really good. Especially the King's Row. Because you got to see like a really strong matchup between the compositions. And Glads actually were a lot stronger, I think, than people gave them credit for in terms of their macro. Their macro looked really good. It's like right here, Shanghai Dragons are moving back to absorb the hit. Fleta is in position on the angle. They have the trance, so they don't need to back up that much. And frankly, like, the problem is that Rain, like, they're still just playing into the Shanghai Dragons' hands here. And obviously, the much harder question is how would you not, right? Because a good team will be able to adapt to the circumstances and set up to play for advantage. But yeah, I mean, Playing dive or ball lets you definitely contest the map control a lot more, which would definitely help with that. However, there are ways that you could probably play a brawl comp like this and play it in a way that um, makes things happen in a little bit more of a competitive fashion. Like here, I think instead of rushing down the long sight line, if they had actually did a split rotation, a couple people here, and then like Pelican here just to make sure that Fleta doesn't like rotate this way, just to box out this entire side of the map, and then kind of loop around through here. I think you might have been able to kind of force out this section of the map and get them into the choke, and that way you can really stall things out. Yeah, Cassidy really is gonna like he doesn't. The problem is like you, for example, like if you had a Widow, you could easily slap her down on this sight line while your team goes this way, and it would be a major threat. But like Cassidy, he's not really. He wants to be on angles, but the problem is he doesn't like the long sight lines that a lot of these angles have when his team already needs to occupy the short sight line because they're a brawl comp against a spammier comp. Right. So he's kind of forced to stack with his team a fair bit here. Yeah, forced into the inside. Trance. Shanghai used Trance. They used Pulse, I believe. They used Flux. Rain used Bomb. Window. Mm, yeah, the other 25 HP also makes a big difference for Cass and Brawl. So, and the more consistent reload pattern means that he has less value spikes, so it's a little more consistent. But yeah, like here, I think the Shanghai Dragons were probably pretty comfortable investing all these ults because they should be able to confidently have Bob up for the next fight. My guess though is they're gonna and mines. They're probably gonna take the next fight really slowly though, because this next fight, the one to like cap this point, is insanely important to do successfully, and it will generally require some ults to do cleanly. So I'm interested though how they handle the positioning, because I don't remember the specific scene. Hmm. Okay, so yeah, they're playing very, very spread out. Basically just trying to bait the front line into these because they don't want to be anywhere near the rush line from Rain, especially because Gator might have Shatter. So the biggest issue, of course, is going to be if Hawk tosses a bomb onto Izayaki, they've basically got nothing for it. That would force a lamp for sure, because I don't think Void would be able to block it. Yeah, Lip probably isn't on a high ground closer because he specifically needs to stay alive for Bob, and he doesn't really want to be in rushdown distance of Pelican, Hawk, and Masa. Because even though this is a quote-unquote brawl comp, it actually has a lot of dive power. Because Pelican, Hawk, and Masa have a lot of horizontal mobility and a fair bit of vertical with Lucio and D.Va too. So that's more of that like hybridization that you see. I think that Lip is probably in a place where I'm happy with. I think they would have liked to have someone over here, but then the problem is you're too separated from the support line and you would definitely get rushed down by those dive people. That's probably a mistake that I would make. I would I would be the one who goes over here and then gets rolled. Because Lip is 100% just looking for Bob here. Wait, hold up, how did Pelican get up here? Did you blink off the payload? Oh, okay, so he just tracked up. I think he should have gone for the pulse bomb there, if I'm honest, but I don't know. That's just me as a rookie tracer. He probably knows more about the good decision making than I do. I guess, no, in hindsight, that is the correct choice to not, because if you did a reckless pulse on there, you're losing actually a pretty big momentum piece. because that best you force lamp, but I think Bap can pretty easily just outmaneuver it. Well, it beats to specifically force the lamp so that you could go for the aggressive bomb towards Izayaki with the D.Va and not have issues with that. But I'm actually so once again, note that like quote unquote chess metaphor. This is like insanely aggressive positioning from the Bap. But then he's also like guarded here because if D.Va comes up to harass, Lip has him covered without being like he can actually peel back to here, so he's not even exposed to those longer sight lines while still shooting the D.Va. The Zen has cover with his orb and Discord. Sig can cover with Brock and some shots. Fate can still provide counter pressure from behind. So this is normally a very, very aggressive position because there's no cover, but because his team has multiple checks to make sure that it's covered, it's a-okay. Like that's a very clean position. And I think it'll actually like that's exerting a lot of threat because as soon as Legion gets window up, things are going to get real sweaty for Rain. So there's the mines. That buys them a little more space. So now you can see Lip starting to play up a bit. I'm curious where he's going to place the Bob. Maybe just straight to the back line? Yeah, straight to the back line. Yeah. So I think... I mean, actually a little curious why Hawk didn't go for the bomb earlier. I can't... I'm saying this like in... Like, I genuinely don't know why. Because... I mean, well, let me just watch his POV, I guess. Man, I keep having to turn down this volume. It's so loud in the first person. I just don't think he's in the mindset of looking for using it. Because, like, the problem is by the time he used it, this isn't a terrible placement, but Izayaki is already out of this hallway. And I guess it would have been really deadly if he had managed to land it, like, right here. That would have been probably, like, lethal and might have actually even clutched the fight. But I think he needed to be looking to do something with that earlier, potentially. Or, like, more specifically setting up getting it into here or here. Because by the time that he got it there, Izayaki is already safe. And then Lip got they let Lip get like well I say they let Lip get to Bob. Lip got to Bob. The Shanghai Dragons had that in the palm of their hands the whole time in terms of pacing, and they didn't even need the BAP window. So we'll probably see Void going into this left side area. Yeah, no chance Legion stays there. So now Rain is obviously just going to basically rush Void down. He's probably going to be forced to kite back to this side. Yes, Izayaki is a menace at preempting rotations. Another player that's really, really good at that is Khan. Khan and Dredger on Paris Eternal. Both of them were really, really good at preempting these rotations. And it's a super important skill for a flex support player, or really any player on brittle heroes like Sigma, Zen, Ana, uh, Cassidy, even to a degree, Widow, obviously. Like you need to be able to anticipate where the pressure is going to be and like constantly moving to update your position. This is going to be where things get interesting because Shanghai Dragons now aren't in a position. They might just sack this fight, if I'm honest, because they don't have the ults to really overcome Beat. Like Beat is really the problem. Shatter, who really cares? No, you're not going to be that rolled by Shatter when you're a dive comp. Gator isn't going to have anyone to Shatter really. That's why he's been so slow to farm it. But because basically how I expect this to happen is Void kites back to here. Hawk forces Lip off the high ground. Fleta moves into here. Izayaki probably stays around here with Legion gone. Fate is going to go here. I would imagine Fleta goes for a pulse bomb on... Tries to look for a pulse bomb on Masa to force beat. I don't think he's going to find it though. We'll see how correct I am. Okay, so yeah, so there's the force back on Void. There's the force back on Lip. Lee Jagon is like he is bold. Dude has zero fear. Izyak is staying back. Lip is staying back. Void is kiting back more than I expected. How did Iris die there? Flutter didn't use the pulse. Did Izayaki just hit a snipe? Yeah, that high ground control is like absolutely lethal. Pelican got a little too greedy there. He should have known that. I don't think he needed to actually go for that. They use the window to buy some more space. Fleta uses the pulse bomb and finds Gator. Wait, I still don't see where he got Iris. Oh yeah, so yeah, here's Kan Hanzo, which I do like better into this matchup, even though he's really weaker to the dive in theory. I think having that range is actually more valuable in this circumstance than keeping the dive at an arm's reach in theory. Where the heck does he kill Iris? Does he kill it through him through the window? Oh, so he just pegs him with one shot, so that must have been Fleta then. We see first point. Yep. No. Was it Lip? This is this is mind-boggling. I can't see how Iris died. It must have been Lip. Yeah, it definitely helps having like the best DPS in the world. I think Lip this year in the league is probably more talent. I think Lip deserved MVP more than Leave, if I'm honest. Not saying that Leave like wasn't also a deserving player, but Lip is like I mean both of them are just like these like transcendental level players who just have so much control over their heroes. And the pressure they exert is so immense. So does he land a shot here on... No, Iris... I still don't understand what happened to Iris. Let me watch his POV. Yeah, Leave was probably the harder carry for sure, but Lip is just... Like, people don't really... Okay, so here we go. Focus. So he gets... slammed? No. Oh, this is really bad. That was really bad angle isolation from Iris. He could not afford to linger in this hallway. So I don't know if it was just a volley from Izayaki or what. But either way, that was really sloppy from Iris. You cannot leave yourself exposed to angles like that. Yeah, so some mix of Fleta and Izayaki. Because in theory here, um, Gator is gonna get melted before he can shatter. They just lost their BAP who had a key ultimate that would help them in this matchup. Masa still hasn't used Beat for whatever reason. He uses Beat as a reaction to Window, I think. Yeah. But at this point, there's like Rain is so far on the back foot already that I don't think that they can actually push back enough to make anything useful out of the Beat like they really would have wanted. Like it doesn't feel like Rain has a game plan, or if they did, Shanghai Dragons are just completely like strong arming their way past it and forcing Rain into their pace. Pelican swaps to Mei for the stall out. At this point, Dragons have Chance and Mines and Flux, all of the biggest ults for closing out this fight. They should just win this here, I believe. Yeah, they're playing it slow because they need to build up those ults first. Rain needs to win this before dragons get their ults up, or they lose. It's already over. Lip is too much. Lip has the distance pressure. Izayaki has the distance pressure. Yeah, it's over. Oh, Void with the Flux. That's unfortunate. I sympathize though, because I do it all the time, and it makes me feel less bad knowing that Void does it too. Okay, yeah. So that was what I expected. So that was entirely in the Shanghai Dragons pacing, that entire fight or match so far. So the offense is where things might get a little more interesting. Because if I remember right, things happen kind of interesting here. Because this, I remember Rain played quite impressively for this brief first part. So off the bat, Shanghai Dragons are playing their kind of standard anti-brawl variant, so to speak, where they have the extra spam power. Rain are playing their poke version, poke brawl hybrid, where they're like, okay, well, screw your dive, but also screw your poke. So it's basically going to come entirely down to how well dragons use their map control. Because if they don't manage to use their map control effectively, they're not going to find any breaks in the Rain team. Because naturally, besides a mirror, Rain's comp or something like it with like the Tor, Barissa, D.Va or Sigwerk, Bap, Brig, like a Cass, a Hanzo, a Mei, whatever. This is going to be like the most intuitive counter comp to the ball comp. Like people are like, "Oh my gosh, what's the comp to the that counters the ball?" And it's like this is it. This is it. But like this isn't rock paper scissors. That's not how the game works. It's not dive beats spam, spam beats brawl, brawl beats dive. That is not how it works. You check it because, for example, dive is stronger in close range than a lot of these mobile heroes. Because if these mobile heroes were as strong in close range as brawl heroes, then they would just be broken and OP. And like poke heroes like to be at long range, so being able to close the range on them typically will help, hence the poke comp being there. But there's this back and forth, right? Because if you can keep the dive from closing the distance with those poke comp, then it doesn't matter, right? And the whole point of using the mobile heroes is that you can actually take your range engagements as you see appropriate. I would have also preferred the Ashe, but I think the reason that they went for the Sombra was for having a higher tempo variance. I think they want to have a more decisive win condition to alternate with Flux on this comp because Bob is like a very, very strong ultimate, but not decisive in the same way. So if you're looking to be on defense where you need to win decisive fights, I think EMP is going to be a really, really strong option. So I don't mind the choice. Something that would have been kind of cool actually would have been Fleta on Echo for an Echo Sombra. I mean, maybe like obviously that's like a kind of a different fish, but would have been cool. Fate is feeding here. They're going in way too early. Unfortunate. I think the Sig is fine, but you'd want the Mercy. You'd probably go Zen Mercy or Ana Mercy. Either would work. I would personally go Zen Mercy and go really greedy, and then go Ball Sig. I think this is too early from Fate and Fleta. Something, okay, so something I would have liked to actually see here is I would have liked to see Izayaki and Lee Jae-gon and Void on this high ground. It might be a kind of reckless. Well, let me think this through actually here. Because on one hand, you would probably catch a rotation from Rain coming up here instead. But that doesn't. Sig and Zen can definitely kite back fast. And no, but then they'd be caught in Kai on the Widow. Kai would have stayed Widow. Hmm. No, yeah, I guess they have to be over here. But then Izayaki could have been... No, this is a little too... I don't mind this. It's a little choked down, and honestly, he probably would get spammed out. But I, I almost would have wanted Izayaki down here, if I'm honest. Because I think this would give him, like, kind of goated control over the low ground in terms of getting his orbs out onto his flankers. Because the problem here is that right now the Shanghai Dragons, like, they don't have that much map control that I don't like as much, and I would have liked to have less straight angles against Kai, like you said. Like, that is specifically what I'm trying to think if there's, like, options against that. Because the problem is right now, these guys are forced onto Kai pretty early, because if they don't, Kai is basically just going to spam out this angle and provide a free rotation for Rain onto point. And I don't, like, I don't know. I don't love this. I think it's fine that they're forcing on Kai, but obviously they're not going to get anything out of that because it was like basically Rain's plan right there anyways to close back into the team and absorb. But yeah, Hanzo's absolutely a threat when it comes to draining resources, just because his overall pressure output is so good. Void gets picked. Where does that happen? I feel like I remember this. I think this was a mistake from Void. I think he dropped early or something. Or no, he got too greedy with his resource management. Because like right here, he just needs to be going into the door. But he lingers for way too long and just gets rolled. So, unfortunate. Because if he had held that angle longer, and the reason he dropped, by the way, is specifically to use the doorway, because this spot, you can't peek back in and out very well, because as soon as you start walking out to here, they'll actually see your head before you can see them, because you're a big tank hitbox and tall as Sigma. So you're probably gonna just like to get chunked really, really hard if you peek in and out from up here. And that's why you have Lee Jae-gon just sitting here. Izayaki rotate around to this sight line, which I like a little better, but it's still not amazing. It's more of a reactive when expecting Rain to move in this way. Uh, Flood is all over Lip, or Flood is all over Akai, but I don't think he's actually going to be able to finish off the kill because Masa should be able to give him pack, yeah. Honestly, they should probably just they're just gonna have to write this fight off as a loss now that Void's out. And I would have liked if Lip could farm a little more EMP charge, but I don't think though that this looked like it was in control of the Rain. I feel like this was more of just Shanghai slipping up. Because look at Rain. They're just playing like entirely stacked. And I know that that is the point of this because they don't want to be easy dive targets, but they have zero map control. They have zero solutions for getting the map control and rotating. And they're basically just poking at these dudes. And I think they would have just like walked up to point and tried to force point. And I think in that alternate reality, Lip would have gotten to EMP or Void had gotten to Flux at 2 ticks. So I don't think they would have capped the full point like that. But obviously that's all speculation. Oh, man, Lip is a menace. I like these swaps from Dragons. Note that both teams swap to the Mei. That's because Mei is actually very strong in terms of poke. And she's actually very strong, of course, in terms of mirror matchup again, because both of these comps are like, well, we like to do some brawling. And so Pelican is probably on it in terms of wanting to use Mei to close the distance, while Fleta is going to be wanting to use Mei to maintain the distance and control the speed more, because they're staying on the Zen, which is stronger in the mirror. Masa, I don't rate his Zen very well. I haven't seen it, I guess. So who knows? Maybe he has like a really good Zen or something in the back pocket. I don't rate his mechanics that high. I haven't really watched him like that much, so maybe I'm wrong. But they're probably gonna stand the Brig, which is really a disadvantage in the mirror, if I'm honest. And I almost would rather have them try to put Pelican on Tracer, but I don't know. I'm not going to critique the comp choices too much because I'll have his preference, and they're definitely on Brig still for Rally. Mm. Yeah, so see, the reason this is like the classic split that you run on this comp that I really, really enjoy. This is why double shield, quote unquote double shield, but like actually like a poke comp is my favorite comp because you get really cool splits like this. So Sega is very self-sufficient because he has his shield. He doesn't actually directly have to engage his HP resource that much. And then on top of it, he has his regenerative shields for if he just takes a little bit of damage, and he has his grab for restoring some health. So well, so to speak. Not to mention Mei, obviously very self-sufficient as well. Has wall to block if they try to rush these two or put them under too much pressure. So these two provide like a really strong angle here, while these guys are basically putting in heavy spam pressure every time Fate drops down shield. So in order to break this, Rain are probably either going to have to invest significant ults while blocking off this section somehow. So maybe like walling this and then trying to rush this past wall somehow. Or they would have to go through here, but in that case, I'm pretty sure Void and Fleta can just kite back to their team. Yeah, so no one's going to want to go through choke, but they poke out the rain. Easy. Oh, I don't like this. Fleta didn't manage to get back to Void. Void is still doing fine on his own for the most part. Okay, they fortunately didn't push Void enough for it to matter. But why did Fate die? Hmm. Oh, the dragons. Okay, that's just unfortunate. But Shanghai Dragons still solidly win that fight. They'll be playing a little more back. They're either going to go for an early flex to make up for the death of Fate and just try and clutch it out regardless, or they just write it off as a loss. But that doesn't seem likely. The team shouldn't write things off as a loss. They should look for a way to clutch. My guess is they probably just kite back and try to reunite with Fate. That or early flex. Okay, yeah, here's the kite back, so they're gonna give some free space. And hit the early flex, so both. 2 for 1 deal. Note that they're establishing this split again. So you have the main Zen, and then you have the core. Why did Lee Jagon die? Doesn't he have lamp? He just doesn't lamp. Hmm. Unfortunate. Because if Lee Jagon stays alive there, I'm pretty sure that the Shanghai Dragons win this. But, whatever. This still felt more like a misplay from the Shanghai Dragons, though, than the Rain really, like, making big plays. Yeah, see, because Dragons still almost clutched this. They only had to, they used Flux, they used Dragons. And maybe Window. Rain had to use Flux, they had to use Blizzard, they had to use Rally, they had to use Window. Like that was really, really costly for the Rain. Unfortunately, I think Shanghai Dragons loses the recontest because of I was gonna say because of Pelican being alive, but he's no longer alive. But they don't have the main tank, so they can't really force into point. There's zero. I would be shocked if Void manages to stay alive here to stop the cap. Yeah. Shanghai Dragons didn't even have to use any ults there just because it was like already just the shambles of Rain coming in and finishing the capture. And now the Dragons have like an insanely strong ult economy here. I would imagine that they try to win this next fight with just Dragons and Window, but and there it is. Yep, Dragons Window. Yep. The reason they specifically go for those ults is because those are very strong ones against engage, like um, against pathing, if that makes sense. Because like Blizzard, you really need to be on top of them to guarantee the value, and it's a lot more volatile. Like it's harder to get more consistent value out of. Meanwhile, Sigma obviously they don't have. Orisa has kind of some like that's really easy to kite back from too, and etc. And it's less disposable. Next fight, they'll probably try and win with just Supercharger. They're gonna Supercharger early, I would imagine. They kite back probably to set up multiple angles here. Oh, that's a good wall. Okay, so they use the Blizzard instead. Fate? Question mark? I like Void pushing past the window. They force Blizzard out of range too. And trade it for Trance. I like that trade. Bummer that they couldn't finish off Kai, but they do stop the momentum enough to hold. Yeah, they have to kite back and give some space here, but then they have the Supercharger up. Unfortunately, they don't have Trance now for the Flex, but I think they can just handle it with a counter Flex. Maybe not, they're too low. They forced Lamp at least. Why is Pelican on Genji? Yeah, that fight felt like that was something that the Brain basically had under their thumb. They had a stronger ult economy at that point, but unfortunate. I think whatever happened to Fate there in the corner needed to not happen. I think Fate needed to stay alive. And range should just cap here. They have all the map control, and Shanghai Dragons are all bled for ults. I'd be shocked if the Shanghai Dragons win this, yeah. Shanghai Dragons point CU is unfortunately a little bit of a travesty. I mean, actually, I want to study that a little bit more because they had such a good economy that they somehow managed to lose. Because right now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 volts to 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 volts. That should have been fine. Big wall, yeah. I would have actually liked, by the way, if Izayaki was up here. Because if they're really like committed to holding in this choke, I think having Izayaki a little more directly close to the tanks but still under cover, I think that would have been really, really good. Bad shield. Really, I don't love it. Honestly, I would recommend just playing on the payload here. And like Fate could have backed up earlier. I think that was just kind of questionable awareness. I think Lee Jae-gon also misses the lamp. Yeah, he misses the lamp. If he had landed that lamp, that would have been an easy win for Shanghai Dragons here. Or easier, rather, because I don't think they would have had to use Trance. And if they didn't use Trance here, they would have it for Flex. Ursa's goal in this comp is basically just, yeah, live as long as possible. Because if you think about it, she's basically there to anchor down the longest sight line to make it not for free and to like physically stall out the cart. So she can set up plays with halt. And the other thing is, of course, like her shield gives you a big access point in terms of being able to safely hit a burst of damage from Hanzo or Zen or whatever. But for the most part, she's going to be looking to stall out the the resources as you just hit the long poke, and then actually be brawling at close range to hold this space. So something that you see, for example, Fate in this fight. Where is the hotkey? Like Fate was playing like really far up, and like that is the correct play here. You see them up here poking and like physically holding the payload. They back up a little bit to kite and burn some of the resources. And then as soon as the engagement commit happens from Fleta, using the blizzard from above, he's back in and brawling. So you'll kind of see like this cycle. It's a lot like Winston actually. Because like with Winston, obviously he'll cycle based on like the jump and his shield. Orisa, you'll cycle based on your shield, basically the same exact way as Bubble cycles. Sorry to watch this. But yeah, I think that if Lee Jae-gon hadn't screwed up that lamp, I'm pretty sure the Shanghai Dragons would have held this point for at least another minute. I'm not sure. We can take a look after. I don't know if they still play Orisa more, but we can go back and take a look in a bit. Okay, it looks like they are on it more. Yeah, let's take a quick look here. Orisa is a really good POV for me to get an idea of what's going on in the field too, since I play a lot of Orisa, so. Oh my gosh, that was a filthy pull. I didn't even know you could land that. Yeah, you see them use the halt and shield. Halt. They might just cycle out halt as long as they can. Something is very wrong with the map control here from the Shanghai Dragons. Why? Why is Fleta die? Yeah, just too greedy. Fleta didn't even need to be on like this top of the statue in the first place. This is what I was talking about with like what I call transcendental kind of quality players is they don't have like Fleta is very very good. Like he's an S tier player, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't have like quite that level of discipline mechanically or positioning wise as someone like Leave, someone like Proper, someone like Lip, etc. Because now that Fleta is dead, this whole sight line is freed up, and they would have needed to have Lip and Izayaki up here if they wanted to like actually recover that map control. But like, I'm curious. I don't know why they didn't do that from the start. Because they have Void here. I like this. But they give up that map control for some reason. A little bit. So that's the reason why Leave is like kind of like a borderline one for me. Like the players who I would say clearly fit the bill for that, in my opinion, are where it was Alarm, Season 3 Ons, specifically at that peak level. Lip, I personally believe Proper is there, and then maybe Void, maybe Hanbin, maybe like one of those. I lean a little more towards Hanbin than Void, but both are really, 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 really good. And then Leave I'm on the border on because he has such good mechanical control over his heroes. And he does have pretty good discipline, but he does have gaps in his play as well because he is very aggro on the hero plays as well. But it's also hard to say because it also might be a little bit of a product of his team environment. So I don't want to speak into it too much, but he does phenomenal works of art on the hero. So, but like here, I wonder. Yeah, no, this just seems uncharacteristically sloppy from the Shanghai Dragons in terms of positioning. Because maybe they're concerned that if they played separately up here, that they would just get spammed out too fast and then forced out, and then the main would get rushed. But I think, first of all, I think that this is a really good comp from Rain. I think this is a cool comp to run into what the Shanghai Dragons have been running. I think having Masa on Mercy and Pelican on Echo, I think that is like an S plus plus tier solution to not being able to run the Zenyatta with Masa. Like I think that is like just so good and smart from the Rain. Because while Mercy is normally a little outclassed, because Pelican gives her that movement point, and like because she operates similarly to the in terms of like contributing to the poke damage, albeit indirectly, it's like a really cool option. And she's also a little more durable against someone like Tracer than Zen. Not that it really matters because your Zen is usually going to be fine because they're checked, because you have your other chess pieces, so to speak, protecting each other still. And the Zen really isn't that exposed to the Tracer. But this looks like. So, for example, I think Shanghai Dragons should have someone here. They should have like Void here, or maybe Lip. I think they honestly could have had just Lip here, Void and Fate here, Fleta playing here, kind of like just on the statue, or actually even just waiting here, or up here, even looking to kind of duel and then get out quickly to rotate up to here. Because the problem is you need some more angles. Right now they just don't have any angles. Yeah, really unfortunate with Fleta. He just like couldn't quite react fast enough, just didn't quite need that positioning, put himself a little too much in the light. Because for example, if Lip was on this angle here, Gator would be having his like teeth punched in by Hanzo arrows. I'm just gonna be honest. And that would also give enough pressure from this other angle that Void and Fate would probably be able to stabilize more. Not to mention if Izayaki was here too, oh my gosh, these guys are screwed from this angle, and you're at least going to be able to hold them down to statue, right? Because then that's how they can close off this main angle while being able to kind of spam that out. And if you do that, you might have enough time to recover for Fleta to come back. But they don't. They don't take that angle, and I don't know why. Like I genuinely don't know why. And additionally, they all kite back through statue, but they should have had someone go here Because if they flip the map here, I don't think that Rain can deal with it fast enough if you also have an angle here. Because, for example, if you split off Izayaki and Void here, and then have Lee Jae-gon and Fate here, or maybe like Void and Lee Jae-gon here, Izayaki and Izayaki Fate here, Void and Lee Jae-gon here, or something like that. Some split that we talk like that I talk about all the time. I think Shanghai Tournament. Yeah, they might have wanted to take the. Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't blame them because yeah, Rain's DPSs were menaces during this game, like absolute menaces. Like I don't think people realize just like how much work that they put in to really like put any pressure, like any of the pressure on the Shanghai Dragons. Basically, this whole game has been because of Kai and Pelican for the most part, and then uh the other pressure has only been from slip-ups from the Dragons, like Lee Jae-gon missing 2 lamps, um, Void being too aggressive and greedy. Fate honestly has been caught out a couple times, but none of them looked too criminal. Lip basically has been flawless. Like yeah, he hasn't had, I haven't seen any issues from him from a macro perspective. Uh, Fleta being a little too aggressive. Like these things are largely due to the Shanghai Dragons slipping up rather than any like actual outmaneuvering from the Rain so far. Because for example, if you have Void though, Void and Lee Jae-gon here looping around and looping all the way around to statue here, because I'm pretty sure they could, well, suddenly Kai is probably on ice. You're probably able to like draw this attention here at least, and suddenly this has no teeth because I guarantee Pelican is going to be looking out over this way now. And then you have Izayaki and, I mean, let's say Izayaki and Fate coming back in. Fate can start toe touching point a little more. Fleta starts to come back. Lip is on an S tier angle. Look at this man. He's already looking how to turn this. This is why he's like one of the best players in the world, if not the best right now. Because he's the only one on the Shanghai Dragons right now already looking for like genuinely how to turn this around. But yeah, I think if they had like split off a couple more people into here, I don't think Rain has enough pinch power or brawling power to really close that out. And I think you could have quickly rotated around enough to get map control. Okay, yeah, so Lip just unfortunately loses that duel. Unless Kai had it scouted. Did he? No. Yeah, he just hurt him. Yeah, that is just unfortunate. Kai is a sicko. Yeah, I think it was just Kai hearing it. I don't think, or maybe Pelican saw it, but I don't think anyone else knew he was there. I think it was just a sound cue, man. That's still scrappy because now the Shanghai Dragons start to leverage this spot, right? Because this is like this and this are the two key areas of the map. You gotta control one or the other. If you don't control either, you lose the game. That's just a fact on this point. Because then you're just boxed in and forced out. You don't, because these are the two lanes, right? You have one lane, mid, other lane. This is the wide lane. This is the narrow lane. You need to control one of the lanes. And Shanghai Dragons just don't control it until it's too late. And Lip, if he had won that duel, he probably could have he might have clutched the fight. It's just unlucky. That's just how it is sometimes, how the cookie crumbles. But he, like, if he was starting to take back this lane alone. If Void maybe had rotated with him, I don't know. But something there collapsed from the Shanghai Dragons, and it's really unfortunate. I still don't think that it was by merit, really, of the Rain. It looked more like just sloppy play from the Shanghai Dragons, because the Rain barely took any map control there themselves. And it's strange because earlier in this year, I've seen Hawk and Kai and like some of these Rain players, I've seen them take really, really strong off angles and map control. I specifically have a clip against the Shock where they took a really good angle on Hollywood on a similar comp to this. So they understand the map control and angles, but for whatever reason, they're just not. Maybe they're afraid of Fleta. I don't know, but my guess is as soon as cart hits corner, Lidragon is gonna slap down the window on the table. Lip might be poking too early here. Hmm. Hmm. Wait, like, why is Izayaki, like, why are Izayaki and Void not up here? Right? Because if this is discorded, you're gonna force out copy really early. And you're gonna actually give Lip room to poke. And obviously Lip can't get into here. But then, yeah, I'm just not very happy with how they're handling this. And unfortunately, Rain has a huge ult advantage because they won that fight. Dragons needs to just not engage right now. So actually, it was probably a mistake to use window until they had... No, I think the window's just a little too far up, actually. If they slapped the window down here, just to buy time and actually force the rain back rather than trying to get greedy. Because the reason they put window here, right, is so that they can walk up if the rain backs up, and then still use the window. But I think that's really really greedy from Legion because they just need time. Because if they can get Lip up to dragons and Void up to Flux, that's where the real firepower is going to come from. They have Izayaki chance, that's really good, great. But and they can't afford to use window here. Why did they use window? Why did they use window? Because he plays too aggro. Yeah, he just plays up too far past the corner and has to use lamp. Because ideally, they all can just kite back from the dragons here, not having to use lamp or trance. And then they use lamp for Hawks, Flux, and then they use trance or like they use one for copy basically and one for Flux and pace their ults better. But like this aggro from the dragons before having decisive ultimates, like when they only have window, is really really awkward. I like the early window, but I think they were using it for the wrong purpose. And once again, Rain is just stacking main, and the only semblances of map control have like come from Pelican going in aggressive. Hmm. Rain should lose this fight though, absolutely. There's no way they win this. Yeah, they just lose. There's no, because against that many ults with so few ults, you just lose. So that was to be expected. In which comp the one that Shanghai Dragons was playing? Basically, anytime you pick Tracer in general is just when you want to like have more map control, basically. Because if let's say right here. So Tracer, like when people look at spam comps and dive comps and brawl comps and stuff as separate things, that actually the reason I don't like it from like an analytical learning perspective is because it makes you think that they're doing different things. But for example, let me wait till I can get to the right point. There's a spot that I think I saw a good illustration for it here. I believe in this engagement here where they use the window, you can kind of see what they're, like why. See, they want map control. Who's going to get it for them? If you send a poke DPS around here, you're probably going to get uh, run down because you don't want to be this close to engagement. You need a close range hero here. And like a less mobile close range hero is going to really struggle to get into this position in the first place. And if they get forced out, they're probably going to get picked off because they're brittle, unless it's someone like Reaper, which can actually work here in theory. So you would put like your Reaper, your Sombra, your Tracer somewhere like here, and suddenly you actually have another angle of damage to complement your spam poke, right? So it helps because King's Row is a more brawly map. So then something like Havana, you might not use the Tracer and you might just play double Sniper instead and like double down on two slate. Like for example, let's pretend this is like Havana main. You might put your Widow here and your Hanzo here on like less deviated angles, but just because it's such a long sight line, you still get value. But like here, where you only really have one long range angle for a spam hero, it can really, really help. Or maybe two, if you consider this as one. You have your Zen as this one. If you really want to have that map control, your Tracer is going to be a really good option for that. And the other thing is that they can actually help defend the angles too. So now if Kai is looking to get greedy map control by going around this way, which is actually a very common and strong option, because he can just like loop up this way after clearing out here, you now have someone marking that. So a lot of the times Tracer isn't actually going to be diving, so to speak. She's not even looking for picks. She's just there for pressure. Like you because you have to think about this as like positioning pressure around. So you're moving your chess pieces into position so that you have these threats in positions that they're forced into a situation where they're stuck in main and just can't do anything and just die to your spam damage. So that's why Tracer is super commonly used in these spam comps, is just because she also likes map control, basically. They all like map control. Everybody does. And that's why she works basically in every comp, is because mobile heroes love map control and give it, and all comps love map control. So that's why Sombra, Tracer, even Reaper to a lesser extent, like these heroes basically can thrive in any comp. That's why like we ran Sombra in some of our brawl comps, and I know that was kind of a meme with me because we weren't that great at running it. And like Sombra with the brawl comp is a little bit memey because she has lower uptime, but like she gives map control. She gives like decisive pressure from an angle if you time it right. Same with Tracer, same with Reaper, same with Echo is too brittle. Genji doesn't actually have consistent enough mobility. I'm trying to think if there's someone else I'm missing. I think it's really just those three. Because yeah, no, I think it's just those three. I think it's only Reaper, Tracer, and Sombra can really pull it off right now. I feel like Reaper is actually a really underused hero. I think he's really like way stronger than people think in terms of pro play and ladder. Flood starts wrapping around for map control. Fate is going to also start wrapping around for map control. Honestly, I almost want them to just look to farm EMP and then just call it a day. Oh my gosh, Izayaki rolled Kai. I like this as long as they don't actually go for a hard engage and are just looking to force resources, which I think that they are. Yeah. See, they're kind of just closing in the gradual pressure. They're not actually like diving to hard commit. You just see this pressure gradually closing closer and closer to here. And now that they have them pushed out of here, this is really dangerous because now you're in Briggs brawling zone. D.Va can get close range, but you also have the Zen able to stay at long range. So you're actually in a really, really dangerous situation because now you're in their preferred range bracket and they have all the angles on you. So Rain already lost this fight. There's no chance that they win this. Unless Fate feeds really bad. No, they still shouldn't win. Yeah. Yeah, they just come in and feed. I would have been shocked if Rain won that somehow. Lip is going to look for some early ult charge. I don't think they want to use... No, they actually probably do want to use EMP next fight, because I think he can get it up. And then ideally they only want to use EMP and can just use the rest of the ults from their fight. It's possible that they might use EMP during the ults fight instead, but yeah, okay. They use that. They use Rally too, which I do like because they can just brawl in on the EMP. And if they just get a couple picks here, that's enough. Yeah, they got Hawk, they got Legion. Or no, they got someone else. At Rain, they didn't have any counter plan. Yeah, Shanghai Dragon just rolled them over. Like Gator is just sitting here. I think Lucid actually did a video on this, or maybe his Egoist Cat. One of them did a video talking about, I think it was this fight specifically. But like the point is all the way up here, and right now Rain needs to be looking to take space or like get a game plan. But Hawk is just, I mean, Gator is just anchoring here for whatever reason. And by anchoring here and just sitting there when there's like no value to it, they're giving dragons so much free space on the map. It's ridiculous. But anyways, with that, I rest my case. The Shanghai Dragons were in control of the game basically that entire match. I didn't like there was maybe one time that I saw that it looked like Atlanta Reign had control over the match. Maybe one fight. And most of the times that the Reign were able to get progress were due to flaws from the Dragons. So this is kind of my point is it set like there was yes, it's only a 35-second difference here on the clock, but this wasn't close because that was like an allowance that the Dragons could afford to have that time. You ask a very good question, Cease, because I want to actually show you something interesting here from here. So obviously we don't. I'll check Glads versus Shanghai in a moment. I think, frankly, no, I don't think either would have. I think Chengdu is weaker in the mirror and less adaptable, and I think Glads are as well. And I don't think. No, no. So this is I mean, it's possible, I guess. I think Glads maybe would have done a little better. So this right here, the Glads had Rain on lockdown. Like this was nuts. Look at this map control. It's actually obscene. So like you see the angle here from these two. You have these two here. You have these two here. These guys are fearless. And like you see Hawk going in so deep, but lo and behold, these guys aren't actually open. You have this damage angle checking them. So even though it's like a very, very close. Oh wait, he talked about it? Man, I gotta see that. Do you have a video link or was it like I've been watching his stuff, but yeah, like these guys had this on lockdown. And I genuinely don't think Rain could have passed this spot on the map this entire match, unless there was one play by Pelican that you'll see in just a couple fights. Because see, the rest of Rain is literally just stacking a main. Yep, there's the angles, there's the split. Rain pushes up into the damage angles again. Up, they have trance and can brawl it out for free. Up, still under the map control. Look at Shu. Like this is disgusting. It's disgusting. Look at Shu's angle. Like this is why this dude is so good. He is not afraid to take these angles like this. Like this dude is a monster. And like these other like the rest of the players on Glads are not slackers either. And of course Kevster is like always in the right position here. I don't quite put him as one of those like transcendental players, but he's pretty close. and like obviously an S tier player. Like, like these dudes are so good. Like, it's just like this is one of my favorite like holds that I've seen on a map ever. Period. So I believe this is the one fight maybe where we see Pelican. Yeah, no, see? They push in, get decimated, and Pelican can't close the distance on the backline yet again. Like they're just dashing themselves against the rocks here. I'm like, this is like on a similar, like the gladiators have a very clear understanding of map control, and rather even lane control, because I do remember DP talking about that. Yep, look, they rotate in. Muse blocks that rotation, so now they have to rotate back into main, or they have to wait it out. Oh, look at that map control. Look at the angles wrapping around again. Hawk goes in and feeds here. This was unfortunately due to a blunder that these two die here. It was actually because Skewed misplaced his lamp, if I remember right. 3, 2, 1. See, he places his lamp right here around the corner. Unfortunate. But yeah, Skewed places his lamp around the corner, so Shu dies to it. And Shu just barely misses out on getting his chance up by 1%. Like literally, if he had his orb, like if he landed one more shot, it was just like this slight miscalculation, but Shu dies here. And meanwhile, Pelican is the old like if for example though, Hawk should not have like he doesn't survive here. He obviously had to use his ult. But even with that, I'm pretty sure Glads actually still wins this if they don't deal with these two guys here. Because these guys drop, they blow up these guys. I think Kevster and Skewed still have a star enough angle in main to really slow things down to the point that only a few Rain players would survive, and then Gladiators win the recontest. But look at Pelican here. This dude is so sick. Jeez, dude is cold as ice. Look at this man. This is what I'm saying. People don't understand what Pelican did. And I'm not saying like the Rain were dead weights or whatever. Like they were not dead weights. Rain was doing really well. Like they made it here by their merit, and Kai did too. But like, oh my gosh, you don't see what Pelican does. Like Pelican is such a terrifyingly good player. Goes for the mega. I don't remember what he does in this fight, but I'm pretty sure he's still like, and like look at that discipline. Discipline. Like this dude is so good. He's so good. Also, I can't believe that Plat Chat didn't choose or no. It was Tactical Crouch. They didn't give Birdring a shout out for best Hanzo when they picked 3 players, and that made me really sad. Cause well, I don't know, but like they chose like Leave, um, Prophet, I think, and shoot, I don't remember the last person. But yeah, they didn't even like they did not mention Birdring until like way later, and they just gave him like a brief shout as like a runner up, and I'm like, damn, bro, these guys have not seen Birdring's on, so he is so good at it. So I'm just gonna briefly watch this fight here because obviously it's not the same map, same comps, but just for an idea, I haven't really actually watched this series between Glads and Shanghai much, which is a little weird for me as Glads being like my second favorite team and all, but. Mm, note that they're not really afraid for Izayaki here because you have these guys basically as your chess pieces check like covering it. They have the cover. Void is within booster's distance. Lip can counter pressure there, etc. Yeah, Void didn't even need to chase that, if I'm honest. Kind of aggro from Fate, but whatever. I like this low ground position from Fate. Like I like that he was like looking for that earlier because he knows that the Tracer is going to be looking to come through there. Because this high ground, like you can jump up to it whenever, but jeez, yeah. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like Izayaki can just kite out, and you have Void instantly blocking that, and Lip instantly looking to counter pressure. And think, I think Shanghai Dragons should have expected that, and I think they actually should have positioned Bird Ring, or sorry, Glad should have expected that. Bird Ring should have been positioned down here. Because if Bird Ring played down here, suddenly Izayaki would be under a lot more heat. Void would be forced down to here. And then I think Muse could have gone in for forcing point, and Kevster too. And they probably would have been able to farm down Fate, I believe. Because Fate wouldn't have had enough access to Izayaki's heals. And Bird Ring gets out for free. He probably has like a translocator over here or something, I would imagine. Or would have had one. And then they probably get at least 2 caps. Bird Ring Sombra. The man, the myth, the legend as he dies to Fate and Spawn. You just need to somehow get better map control than them, which is easier said than done. But Sombra is very good at getting map control because she's like even more so than Tracer almost. She just has less uptime on that map control. Oof. Goodbye, Shu. That is sloppy. Yeah, I'll just call it right there. I don't think Glads would have won against the Shanghai Dragons. I mean, I think they maybe would have gotten a map on King's Row, for example. I don't know if Shanghai would have. I don't know if they would have taken Shanghai to King's Row, but um, because like Rain chose King's Row obviously because they wanted to favor the brawl. Glads weren't really leaning into that. I don't know if it's because of lack of confidence in the stuff with Muse's Rhine or something or what. But I don't know. I think it's just a I mean, first of all, they just have they have 6S tier players. Like these guys are just like I mean, like it's like a common thread of like, oh yeah, he's like I mean, the best team will win. That's just how it goes usually. So these guys just alone, first of all, like even without staff in question, are already going to be beating a lot of teams just by nature of being each individually so good. Um, but in terms of understanding, it probably helps that they're all together, that this is their second year basically as a full lineup, going into third year as a full lineup. I think sticking together, power of friendship, quote unquote, is super, super underrated in Overwatch League. Because like contenders players shuffle around all the time. But we saw how Runaway, these guys were like clowns individually, if I'm honest, except for like the Twilight. But then like together in Overwatch, like these guys were like the second best to best even team in GOATS. These guys were menaces together. So that because like map control and like within the environment of your team, a lot of it becomes stylized from playing together. And then of course I think their staff is very good too. Moon is like I don't like obviously I don't know. I haven't worked with him personally, so I can't speak to what he does. From the interviews and stuff, like he's another dude who's like read Art of War. Like I saw that in an interview. In general, I think he's very, very intelligent with the way he approaches the game. I think I think he's very, very good, and I think a lot of it. I don't think it comes from a coaching so to speak, in terms of coaches' understanding of the game. Because, like, for example, I don't think I would say Deepay understands the game less than Moon, or Krusty understands the game less than Moon, or I would say probably that Seffi understands the game less than Moon, but I think that Seffi is a good coach in his own right to a degree in some aspects, though I disagree with a lot of his stuff too that I've seen. Um, but I think Moon does a better job of weaving his understanding of the game into his players, if that makes sense. Because, like, for example, I think Deepe did a good job with that this season, where like Shu is disgusting this season. Like his use of off angles and map control was elite. Um, Same with Kevster. I think he's very good with it. Muse honestly didn't look that bad in my opinion. Like yeah, he had a lot of rough moments, but it could have been a lot worse. Um, Skewed obviously looked like the best Brig. Birdring looked very good, but maybe a little weaker. But the thing is they just like, but like if you look at Rain, that's what it looks like just to have a group of elite level players playing. Like you have Kai playing at an elite level, you have Pelican playing at an elite level, other players on the team playing at an elite level at various levels or heroes or whatever. But they don't have that understanding of the game in terms of cohesive map control as a team that I think you need to really, really succeed. So like, unfortunately, I wish, oh my gosh, like you don't understand how badly I would have liked to have some window here into the Shanghai Dragons' success and like what the cause of behind it is and like the organizational stuff. But unfortunately, there's a lot of factors involved. So I would guess it's probably a mix of all of it. But I think to even go toe to toe, yeah, I wish I understood Korean too, man. I think to even go toe to toe with the Dragons though, you need to start by just having six S tier players. There's no one on the Shanghai Dragons roster who's below S tier, so to speak. And you even have S plus tier players like these transcendental players in Lip and maybe Void, right? So it's like you just have so much talent on that roster. And like if you compare that to Glads, you're like, okay, you have Shu, he's S tier. Kevster is clearly S tier. Birdring is probably S tier. Muse, probably A. Skewed, probably A. Space, probably A. Right? Like that's a clear difference. Rain, you're like, okay, maybe argue that like Pelican is like transcendental even potentially, but definitely S. Kai, probably S. Gator Hawk, A at best, maybe even B for Gator. I don't rate Gator that well. I mean, part of this is biased because I just don't like him and his like NFTs and stuff, and like I think he's kind of like lame. But let's say A just to be like nice to him. Iris, maybe S on BAP at best, but definitely not on his other heroes, and probably like an A. Masa, there's no shot that he's S. He's definitely like A at best. So you're like, once again, you're looking at these guys where you're like, well, okay, you have some really good pieces, but then that's basically your hard limits. And then, um, who else was close? Okay, Fuel, A tier DPS line, depending on the meta. Like obviously Sparkle's like transcendental when it comes to Doom and Sin, the Genji, but those aren't the heroes that were viable there. Maybe even Pharah, but definitely not on Tracer. Probably not even on Echo. Doha, I think is just A tier across the board. Fearless is S tier. Hanbin is S tier. Fielder is A to S tier. Who's their main support again? Was it Jexay last season? It was Jexay, right? I'm not tripping. Low level to a higher level. You mean like in like the rankings that I'm speaking of them? Like A to S tier, S plus tier, etc. My informal rankings. Um, I think you can, but it has to be a very close alignment of circumstances and situation. Because I think the prime example that you would look at is Ons, because he's very clearly not like this transcendental level player right now. And he very clearly wasn't before. He wasn't even like a pro player that much. He was just like popping off on ladder with mechanics. But then under Krusty's like guidance with map control and stuff, and in the team environment, this dude looks like, frankly, some of the most perfected Overwatch that we've seen. So I don't know. I think you definitely could, but it would require a lot of trust from player to coach and vice versa, I think. Basically, you need to have a good, like another example might be like Krusty and Striker. I don't know how good Striker was before Krusty worked with him, but Krusty basically has said that Striker was kind of like his embodiment player. Yeah, on Boston, or even before he joined Boston. Krusty was on Boston, but like early on, or maybe before Boston, because I don't know how much Striker was doing in contenders and stuff. But like, and like Fleta, I mean, well, no, Fleta was pretty good even before, but he wasn't like, and even now he hasn't quite reached that level. Um, let's see, has there people who have moved from like B to A? Um, mm, there's got to be someone that I'm missing here. I'm kind of blanking out. The biggest issue is that like the mechanical talent already has to be there, I think. Yeah, Fearless might be one. Yeah. Because under the right coaching guidance and with the right team environment, then they look that good. Yeah. I would agree. Fearless is a really good example because nobody thought he would be that good on the Shanghai Dragons, like when the original Shanghai Dragons. But if you don't have that mechanical skill there and like the player's willingness to train it, like yeah, you can coach the game sense, you can coach the awareness and like all of those cool things, but you definitely cannot coach the mechanics. So yeah, there's kind of like there's a limit on it. Damn, I love this skin. Oh my gosh, wait, does the dragon have smoke coming from it? Yo, wait, this is so cool. My plans for Overwatch. Funny that you should ask that because that's why I messaged you about or tagged you about Spilo earlier as he was asking me about that because he's been looking at, I don't know if you saw his tweet, but he's like looking at like interviewing some underrated coaches and stuff. So I might be involved with doing that because Patty referred me as a reference there. And all that jazz. And like he was asking me about that too a bit in DMs earlier today. And I think like it's been so tough because I have like I first of all I'm like focused on school right now. So it's like well and family of course. So I don't have tons and tons of time to pour into coaching. And the other thing is like interest is super low right now on average with Overwatch 2 coming out soon and stuff. So it's like right now like even if I joined a tier 3 team or a tier 2 team or something like that, yeah, assuming there was an opening, it's like they're not really looking to recruit right now. But sometime in the next 2 years, though, I definitely want to look to assist and like work with a tier 2 or tier 2, tier 3 team, like something that like has like really driven players because like I loved working with Miracles, of course, and like that was a super cool project. But I think it really showed that like you're not there's going to be hard limits on the motivation and like distance that you can travel without um without just being at the pro level, basically. Like if you like the pro people are the people that I want to work with. And unfortunately, I don't know if I have the repertoire right now to like even be on the radar of those people, but who knows? Maybe I can sneak on as like an assistant coach somewhere or like an analyst somewhere and like just assist with this kind of stuff because I enjoy it as a hobby. Like it's not like I'm looking to like become a pro coach necessarily or anything. And I definitely am not looking to do it as a career, but I think it'd be cool to like get my hands on a little more players, so to speak. Oh, they didn't change the chance locator at all. I thought they would like make it cool looking maybe. But yeah, I'll probably still be doing like my Tuesday once a week streams. Maybe on Thursday or Sunday or something too if I ever get like more popular down the line because I do my free I do free VOD reviews but nobody has seen it really yet because I only do like a Reddit post like once a month and I kind of like slip it in there as like a low key thing. Uh, and obviously I do analysis stuff occasionally too, but mostly it's just to like say that I can, so I can say that I'm consistently streaming still. So that's why it's like an office hour thing. Is it just whoever stops in and has questions for the most part gets my priority because I don't usually like have something scheduled and planned like my uh Overwatch League analysis stuff today. So also wanted to get this done though because I assume the Overwatch League replays are going to be down once the new season starts up. So it'd be good to have some really good records like that. Yeah, I mean, I would love to work with some higher ranked people because like I don't turn down lower ranked players necessarily, but like for example on like Overwatch University or something, I'm not going to be actively seeking them out with that. And I definitely don't enjoy it that much just because it's all the same stuff and they're not really driven enough to like necessarily change. So like I really love working with like higher ranked players. And with that, but yeah, I would love if there's people that you might be interested, feel free to send them my way. With that though, I'm gonna have to head on out. I got my cool Sombra skin. Gonna be eating dinner soon, all that. Thank you everyone for stopping by, listening, viewing. Thank you, Cease. Thank you, Tricio, for in being engaged for some parts of it. Thank you, what's your name again? Akpo. It's cool seeing you around and chatting with you too. And that's that. Yep. See yous.